So thank you very much. We'll get directly to it. As we all know that healthcare is undergoing a lot of change. And one of the key areas that a hospital relies on is its supply chain. The incoming goods, how you procure, where you procure. And of course, you have to balance procurement with things like efficiency and sustainability. And that's the mandate we have, right? So let me start. I think 30% of this panel should be friendly to me because I know Madan from before. And Amit, you may not realize I'm an alumni of KMC Manipal. So we have something in common here. So I think 20 and Pallab and me connected over the week. So I think 30 to 40% of this panel should be friendly to me. So with that in mind, we will, I had originally designed this panel for 49 minutes. As you all know, I'd sent the minutes to you, but we have only 35. So we'll try to keep it to one round of questions and see if we can take any counters from there, right? So with that in mind, my first question is to you, Amit, and putting you directly on the spot. What are the new trends we are seeing in hospital procurement overall? May not be specific to Manipal, it could be overall the trends you're seeing in the industry.
Yeah, thanks for the question and interest of time. So I would just say there that in last 5 years, especially, there's a complete transformation in the procurement organizations in healthcare. So if I ask the audience generally, when we say P2P, what does it mean? Anyone can answer in audience? P2P. Yeah, so the common answer is procurement to pay. But in healthcare, how we have transformed, we say procurement to patient. This is the journey. How we connect in procurement to make sure that we are able to help the patient. That customer centricity. How we drive the efficiencies. I don't think so it's anymore that the procurement is just seen to drive the cost down. Gone are that era. So today, any procurement matured organization in healthcare has transformed that. How we enable to increase the operational efficiency. How we create a value care based system for our patients. And how do we enable end-to-end execution as a projects? Because in any hospitals, cost of course is the oxygen we breathe. It is important. But what also important is how do we execute? How do we enable the speed? How do we procure the best technologies in the hospitals? So many examples, Dr. Vikram, I can share on the stage, so like latest trends if you look at. So RFID, because in procurement also, the tracking systems are important. How do we track our supplies? How do we track the material movements in the hospital's different floors? How do we track the gaps, warehousing? And this is the era, where, of course, since morning we are hearing AI, and I strongly say that earlier we were used to say God is everywhere. I think now we say that AI is everywhere. So that's how. And in healthcare, how AI started, because I am in healthcare industry for last 6.5 years, but in the virtue of the knowledge through colleagues, peers, supplier partners, AI started in healthcare to my best knowledge through the radiology, where, the algorithms and the artificial intelligence helped how we can improve the imaging systems, how we can improve the diagnosis for the patients. And then those advanced diagnoses, how we help to, cure the patients more faster. So technology is everywhere in healthcare space. And in procurement supply chain, few trends in my journey, especially on the transformation driving. Conventional systems of purchasing where the teams were supposed to just get the RFQ, pricing done, release the order, get the material, that's it, purchasing. So today, the first change we have seen that every healthcare hospital organization, especially the multi-site operation, have recognized that they have to build a strong, robust talent in procurement who understands the technology and invest on the people first in procurement supply chain, because that's very vital. Because look at today where the technology is standing in all the industries, irrespective of healthcare. So if the buyers, they are competent enough, they are engineers or they are pharmacists or they are biomedical engineers and subject matter experts, they will fully acknowledge and understand that the concepts, the technologies, what they have to talk with the suppliers, early supplier involvement, what they have to bring to the organization, right from the design stages to the implementation. So foremost change we have seen is that every hospital is investing to make the supply chain procurement organization strong in terms of the people talent. Number two, multi-site and scaled organizations, the top corporate chains, hospitals, or even the hospitals who have 4 or 5 locations, they have recognized that it's very important for them that how do we consolidate and centralize the procurement supply chain function, right, and leverage the scales, build those synergies together. So that's the second trend we have seen the successful. Third, supplier partnerships. It is no more conventional tactical transactional relationships between the buyer and the seller. So today, every organization is aiming that from supply chain procurement perspective, we build the long-term supplier partnerships. And that's what I said, that early supplier involvement is very important. So this is one of the trend. And the last I can add is, of course, the AI-based or machine learning algorithms, which helps your analytics, and ease up the work manual for your teams. And that can be automated, predictive analysis, inventory management dashboards. So all that stuff, again, thanks to AI.
So thank you, Amit. So let's make it a ground rule. Everybody finishes every answer with AI. Of course, there is AI, right? Because we have to add AI. Otherwise, if we don't add AI, it looks like we are not in sync with what's happening in the modern world. So to you, Doctor, one of the things we discussed during the initial questions is, Amit talked about talent, scale, obviously technology, and that's interesting thing he brought up, which I didn't think of much when I was designing these questions, is once you procure, you have to track it inside the organization as well. It's not like your job is over, it has been bought, it's lying in some warehouse. So how do you see in your experience your organization responding to these things?
We all know about nowadays it is a trend, sustainable procurement, because it is important for the environmental, social and cost. So if we are focusing on these three things, so it will very good for the healthcare sector, especially hospital, because we are using many type of material. We are using single waste like plastics and gowns and other things. So if we are converting this thing in multiple using or reusable materials, then it will good for the companies, and also it will promote the cost saving. And I think if we are using this type of recycle materials and if we are working on waste management things, then it is also good for the company, because reputations will comes. So because already many things are tell just before. So
okay, thank you very much. That's very interesting. You talked about recycling, you talked about single use, you talked about waste management, which is fantastic. So coming over to you, Madan, you have a very interesting problem because you have to balance efficiency, sustainability. But at the end of the day, you are a very highly specialized procurement. Oncology, there will be very few people you can buy from. Quality is a problem. Your outcomes are more important. Some of them are long-term treatments. So how do you balance all this out, keeping in mind whatever Amit has stated and the good doctor has corroborated beyond that?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Vikram. Thank you, Elets, for having me here. I just want to touch upon what Amit mentioned, right, in terms of RFID and IoT sensors. When it comes to cancer care, we all know that the cost of drugs and the cost of overall treatment is significantly high, not just in India, across the globe. So there are a few initiatives what we try to do, working with the pharmaceutical sector, right, in terms of creating a blockchain, having the RFID to avoid pilferages, right, to reduce the inventory, to also avoid expired goods. So how it helps is, we have the drug when it's manufactured at the pharmaceutical manufacturing location till it reaches its warehouse, it comes to the hospital, until it reaches the patient. We try to track each and every high value drugs here. That helps not only the patient but also the organization, and both the pharmaceutical and the hospital, to fill the gaps wherever there are leakages. Moreover, with the evolving healthcare trend in India, right? The call for sustainability is never been louder. So today, everyone is focusing on sustainability, and there is a lot more focus on procurement to drive these initiatives, right? So how does it happen? We go back to the Deming circle of plan, do, check, and act. You look at the key partners. So what do they have in their portal? One good thing what hospitals can benefit is, while sustainability is fairly new to healthcare, only in the last few years, it has been a topic of interest for several decades in automobile and manufacturing, where everyone talks about sustainability as the key factor in their procurement decisions, right? So good thing for hospitals, most of our partners, let it be medical device, medical equipment manufacturers, even pharmaceutical, they've been practicing sustainability and ESG for decades now. I think we need to have a common platform where we can share the thoughts, where we can work together to make it more efficient on both the ends. In the end, what is important is how do we reduce the cost to the patient and improve the clinical outcome.
Excellent thoughts. This is the second time somebody has brought up learning from other industries. A few days ago, I was in a discussion, we were talking about privacy, and he said, we may not have too many privacy professionals in India, but we have a lot of lawyers who understand privacy, can be trained as privacy professionals. And I did realize that auto, for example, or consumer has been doing sustainability for fairly long. So there's lots to learn from it. So coming to you, Pallab, one of the interesting things we see is you might have it as a priority. As a leader, you might say, I will procure sustainably. But how does that align with your overall business priorities? Or let me not say business, we are in a business of care. So with the hospital priorities, with their strategy, how do you see that alignment?
Well, your point is very correct that when we all talk about the sustainability, but whether it is really aligning with our company's own business strategy and how the procurement function can add value to that. There are few hidden or apparent things which we may have to communicate accordingly. Like there are few key benefits. If we talk about, as of now, all like our previous speakers have also mentioned about the sustainability, more and more persons are now, and patients as well as the customers are now accustomed to that, and this word is coming up. It has been giving a very good positive image. It mentions that if any company is focusing on the sustainability, means they are looking after the ethical practices. Because the sustainability doesn't only mean that you are just doing the recycling things, but whether you are following the labor laws, where the specific working conditions, healthy atmospheres are there, whether they are buying in on all the country's relative laws, whether they are following that. So all these three kind of things, whether it is environmental or social or governance, whether it is maintaining. Many of the customers, manufacturers say in case whether they are following all these laws, it is not that only healthcare. We also look after whether our suppliers are following these ESG principles or not. So this gives a very positive image. Second, we can say it can increase our revenue. Why and how our revenue can increase? One study from the McKinsey head shows that as the purchasing parity, purchasing power of the customers has increased, so more and more focus customers are giving. If any company is following this sustainability, they are ready to pay the premium. That premium can be 10%, 20%, that depends. But they doesn't mind to pay the premium if the company is following the sustainable practice. Third thing, what Sampath has also mentioned, that it is reducing the cost. How it is reducing the cost? Because it is reducing the wastage. Wastage removal means it is obviously reducing the cost of your raw material. And if you are using the renewable energy, many of the manufacturers probably they are using the renewable energy. Obviously that is reducing your energy cost, your energy bill. So your cost is coming down. Obviously it is hitting your bottom line. It is improving your bottom line. Similarly, more and more countries are now following these different laws and different principles. It has come up from the EU. It has coming into the East Asia like Singapore, Malaysia. They are following this. And many of our Indian companies where headquarters are in Singapore and Malaysia, they are following this principle. They are even focusing. In our last 3 organizations, it is Singapore-based, Singapore headquarters of the APAC. They are focusing in the last 3-4 years, we have seen the transformation. And it is also giving us another kind of supplier options. It is not that only the traditional supplier can give you the option, but the suppliers who have this another option who is following the sustainability. And lastly, we are all human beings. It is not that what you are using as of now, but where we are living, we are reducing the carbon footprint by availing this sustainability method, and what we are living for our next generation. We may not be living up another for 100 years, but what we are living for our next generation. That's why we feel that the sustainability is so important, and we can give this many number of options to our business entity that, okay, these are the benefits of the sustainability.
Thank you, Pallab. That's brilliant. Huh? So you can charge a premium, it seems, if you're sustainable. I mean, I see some brands do it, but it's interesting to see even in healthcare, that thought process is the same. It shows we are part of an integrated environment. So Naresh, one interesting aspect that I wanted to think about is, we talk about innovation. We talk about innovation in, say, patient care, patient operations. What are the kind of innovative ideas you're seeing from a procurement perspective, whether it drives in efficiency or sustainability? But is there any innovation that is catching your eye?
So, first of all, really, I'm very happy. Last 25 years working with pharma industry, I could see all of us are thinking on the same line, where we have a lot of innovative ideas around procurement, as well as we are actually talking about the true patient care, where we are ready to pay premium to the companies who are bringing sustainability, and we are really ready to, and I can see very clearly there is a partnership between hospital as well as the pharma companies. So coming to the point where we are talking about different models of procurement, where, like, I strongly believe, I think this model of only selecting, maybe it is not applicable for procurement here in large corporate hospitals, but the only selecting the L1, which is like a very, very complicated model with Indian public health as of now. But coming to the corporate hospitals, I think this learning should go back to our public healthcare system, where you have committees for different products, where you have technical committees who take, for example, if there's a unique medical device, they take demonstration, they see the usability of the product, they run pilots of how it has to be engaged in a system, and then they pay premium. So this is, I say that again, and of course a US model, international model, where you go out of the box in thinking. And then I think this is so helpful. 70% of Indian procurement should learn from this, I will say 10 to 15% of corporate procurement. I would also like to add here, like, I know everybody started with AI and would like to end with AI. So I represent a company which is, like, you would have seen the large X-rays rooms. Now we have come up with a very ultra portable handheld X-ray, which is like 2.5 kg, which has AI embedded in it. And this is like the AI which has almost learned now 90 million X-rays they have learned, and they are reducing the reducing the load of radiologists, and really helping radiologists to predict things faster, because there are, I will say, 100 million X-rays happening in our country every year, and we do not have enough radiologists. So the true use of innovation we could see daily in our life, because we would have also done by now at least 100,000 X-rays in India, and we could see the impact, the true impact. So I also strongly believe, like this, more innovations like point of care devices. You guys sitting in procurement will be seeing a lot of companies coming to you for more innovations around reaching very near to the patient. The point of care devices where you can monitor the patient from their remote locations, and maybe I will go a step ahead. You can hold patients for their primary care at their natives, which we see today. Thousands of patients come for even their primary care to the large cities. And if we can hold them, there are a lot of new technologies coming up in this space where you have integrated solutions. And what normally a patient at ground needs is a satisfaction of doing some diagnostic test for him. And we are working on a lot of technology in this space, which is like some of them are already US FDA approved. We would like to bring it in India. And I believe primary care should be done very, very near to the patient's native place. They should not be spending a lot of money from their pocket to come to a better healthcare facility when you can do all this at their native. And of course, we have all the large hospitals who can really provide the secondary as well as tertiary care in the best possible way. Thank you.
Thank you, Naresh. So I'm assuming that all...
Just one thing, if I can add on to what you said, right? So
Sure.
the perspective of sustainability and efficiency, what we all think on ESG is, okay, we need to be good to environment, reduce paper, not travel, reduce fuel, and so on. But while we look at this point of care solution, the mobile applications, right? All the automation that we talk about, so that is going to impact severely on the overall sustainability factor. So it's not just about reducing your cost of ESG, it's about how do we make things happen like e-health services, right? Like video consultation. So these are the future factors where we need to look at how they are also impacting the overall sustainability cost factors.
Thank you. Thank you, Madan. Interestingly, I was listening to Dr. Devi Shetty this morning. We had a session with him and he did bring up this part about efficiency in the hospital itself. He talked about CT scans running about 5 scans a day while they could do up to 250 scans. And we are not utilizing whatever we have to the greatest extent possible. So I think that's a fascinating topic by itself. And by the way, he gave a new term for AI. It's not artificial intelligence, it's augmented intelligence. So it augments the intelligence of the doctor or a supply chain leader in this case. So with that, I'm coming back to you, Amit. I could always hold, I know you're not a listed entity, so maybe a lot of the, SEBI rules don't apply, the SEBI 1000 doesn't apply, the BSRS reporting. But apart from regulations, why would sustainability in procurement be a key part of your business strategy?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. See, any procurement decisions should be mindful looking at the long-term strategies. And these days, and when we bake in the long-term strategies, we always consider sustainability also as one of the decision metrics. And as the colleagues on the stage said that, so sustainability approach is not for the one time or just for the 2 or 3 times making the procurement decisions on buy-off. And these are the long-term benefits and the long-term approach. And I'll give you an example. Procurement today is the backbone to drive efficiencies for any organization, whether it is a healthcare industry or any other cross industries. And when we qualify a new supplier, and as he said also that it's not only what we drive sustainability, but how we cascade it to our supply base to make it effective for long-term perspective. When we visit the manufacturing plants, we want to audit them. We want to audit their all the ecosystem, all the environmental and safety regulations. And smallest example I give you, even the distributors, who approach our team, we always encourage them that when they do the Milky Run in Bangalore, for example, for the shipments, that please move to the electric vehicles, electric trucks. Try to avoid using the conventional mode of the transports. So not only that, it helps to bring their costs down, but it also helps to add sustainability for their business, our business, also for our city, and in turn, everything is linked to India, right? So I think we as a progressive nation, we are proud that today healthcare, India, is the most fastest sector, one of the, and the 4th fastest industry moving in. Our CAGR is very promising with 25, 26% over the next 2-3 years. What does it indicate? That this is a sector, which has a lot of demand, which has a lot of scope to drive all the improvements, the continuous improvements in all the areas, whether primary service provider, whether medtech companies, whether IVD industry, everything. And sustainable approach is important for not only the buyers, but overall all the stakeholders when we work in collaboration and with an inclusive approach.
Excellent. So your thought is around sustainability as a holistic concept, and look at it not only from a one-time activity, but as a philosophy. And then becomes a philosophy, it's easier to kind of ingrain it. Which brings me to Dr. Raushan Aara again. One interesting thing with most listed entities as well as even privately held entities is that, the initial costs of doing something are higher.
Yes, yes.
So how do you balance that out when you're reporting quarter on quarter, right? Because then one quarter it suddenly spikes, and you're saying, no, this is fine. It's a one time. We will settle it down. But how do you balance that? And any examples you have?
See, it is really challengeable, because if we are going to implement sustainable procurement or sustainable healthcare practices, so cost will become first thing. And also at the same time, technology is also challengeable for everyone. So company should take the decision, because we should focus on the long terms, not short term. If we are thinking about the long term profit, so we should go with the sustainable procurement, and we should invest the money. Then only we can get more and more profits, and it will also good for the patients and other colleagues, employee, and environments. So I want Mr. Amit sir, if you want to add any points.
That's fine. Of course, as I said that, it is not the short-term approach.
Yeah.
Any procurement supply chain has to look at a very sustainable methodology. So we have to build that culture in the department, in the organization. And just the smallest to add here, we always prefer to take decision on the TCO, right? Yes. And TCO, generally people say, okay, is the cost, payment terms, warranty, we all add and take a TCO decision. But today, in the TCO, please do not ignore the technology benefit.
Right.
Because when you buy a product, I give you an example, like if you're making a deal for a CT or an MRI, you're not buying this for 2 years, 3 years journey. Yeah. Because these product life cycle is 10 years minimum. Yes. So you cannot ignore the technology as a differentiator, that what you want to buy should run in your hospital as a equipment to deliver services to the patient for 10 years. And in 10 years, look at how the technology would be different from now. And if you look back the 10 years ago, yes, how was the technology in India, right? Today, everything is digital adoption, right? Swiggy, Zomato, Zepto, everything, e-pharmacies, everything is digital adoption. Because, and I was joking on my table, actually, I was asking my colleagues that, answer me, who is the most impatient person in hospital? Anyone knows that answer or guess? Who would be the most impatient person in the hospital?
The patient itself.
Exactly, patient. So because even if we go as a patient, right, I think we will be asking nurse 5-6 times, or maybe 10 times in a day, when the doctor will come, when doctor will visit me to see in the evening. After the surgery, we will be more impatient, right? And nurse would be also, with the empathy and the patience, she will be answering that, yeah, doctor is on the round, he will come, he or she will come, right? So when we have patient as the most impatient personality there, what he is looking for, the speed. What he is looking for, the best clinical outcome. What he is looking for, a value care system, what I said when I began my message. So when we keep in mind as a procurement leader or a procurement buyer or a supply chain person, we always should think on these derivatives, that ultimately we want to help our patient that he gets discharged in the most optimal time. He gets discharged with the best clinical outcome, what he or she has expected. And then we as a back-end function, how we have enabled that, how we made sure that availability of the materials, availability of the equipments, availability of the services, availability of the drugs, to make our clinicians, nurses, paramedical, to ultimately make the treatment most efficiently. So that's the sustainable approach. Yes. And again, request to all procurement supply chain fraternity that do not just look the cost as the driver, look at efficiency and a value-based ecosystem. And also, coming back to your first question, Dr. Vikram, that trends changing. So today, presently era, the procurement has to be a very inclusive function. It is no longer an execution function that some doctor comes or some department head comes and they say, okay, this is my specs, please buy. Procurement must add a value there. They also can be an input. They also can bring the strategic perspective, what they gather from the industry peers, from our good supplier partners. Correct. And also can educate the internal stakeholders that this specifications probably is going to outdate. And now we have a better proposition in place which may cost or may not cost cheaper today. But if you look at the advantages for next 5 years, 10 years, it is going to be much more benefit to you and the organization. So be inclusive approach. That's the way.
Excellent thought. On that, I just want to redirect to Madan because he brought it up earlier. Madan, in your opinion, what are the kind of changes we need to make, to get this thinking? Like what Amit described, what you described earlier, what Naresh described, what Pallab described, what Dr. Raushan Aara described. What are the kind of changes we need to make in our processes? That I'm going to be sustainable for the long term, I'm going to be efficient, but...
I think the ideal mindset, right, as the stewards of public health, right, and we can even call ourselves the guardian of finite molecules, what we have. We need to identify opportunity to marry the imperatives of sustainability with the demands of operational excellence, right? So how do we do that? We take to go ahead with in terms of process. You start from the product, what product you want to source, what is the life cycle analysis of the product, how sustainable they are, right? Obviously, we can't look at each and every drug and consumable and look at how they're going to be. I would say healthcare is the one industry which use maximum of plastics in terms of syringes, in terms of tubes, but we have to look at other alternatives, not for these products, but for other items where it can be more sustainable, right? So other than looking at the supplier, what kind of sustainable approach they have in place in terms of supplier selection criteria, how do you emphasize on the need for, let's say, all the ESG parameters what they have, whether they're registered to OSHAs and so on. So second is on the product, on the life cycle analysis of the product. Third is how do we create a collaboration and a common platform with the partners, right? I think in terms of the sourcing platform, how do we communicate? How do you get the negotiation done? How do you process the order? How do you monitor your inventory? So all these are also key parameters for sustainability, right? And the most important is in terms of innovation. So innovation, I always keep even telling everyone, innovation is not about just creating something from the scratch, but there are so many industries, so many even other hospitals who have done something innovative. It's a good idea for us. They already put their mind, created, identified some ideas. Let's take it and re-implement it, because there are so many ideas out there which are not implemented across the industry, right? We should not just look at what can we do from scratch. We have to take the ideas from all the other industries. One common thing I always admire is the aviation industry, how let's say the Ministry of Aviation along with the aviation partners and with the airport authority, how they have seamlessly over the years created the digital intervention, right? I still remember printing out a paper outside airport for $10, and today I don't even carry my phone. It's all in Digiyatra with I just walk into the airport. So how does that help from across all the category of people we have in the country, and how do they implement it over all these years? So we should look at a process and tool that's not going to change overnight, but we need to have a 3 to 5 year plan. How do we implement and train people, educate them on the processes that in terms of adoption, right? So we have to train them, we have to monitor them, and then look at continuous improvement as the solution for long term.
Thank you, Madan. I think a topic like this, I think 35 minutes doesn't do justice on a serious note, because it's a all-pervasive topic, right? And if somebody says, hey, can you compress sustainability and procurement and efficiency in 35 minutes? I think it's a bit of a challenge. So we should definitely push for 10 more minutes, which is, I think if it's okay with all of us here, as we hold the mics.
Just to add there, Dr. Vikram, what Madan emphasized, the one more point for sustainability for supply chain, So I have seen that all hospitals, what the syndrome is, massive number of suppliers. They have the hobby, to create suppliers. And when I joined the institution where I'm working today, so, 6.5 years back, I looked at the spend report and I asked the team, why do we need thousands of suppliers and distributors? So no answers. It's just there as a legacy. So foremost important for supply chain sustainability, make your supply base lean. Implement the lean practices. Try to implement the good Six Sigma practices of the cross industries in hospital operations, which makes the overall ecosystem lean and efficient. And if you are able to do that, we are sustainable in those aspects.
Oh, good thought actually. But let me take a tough question for Pallab. Pallab, you do all these wonderful things. Amit tells you shrink this supply base. Madan talks about learning from aviation. How do you sell this to the management? How do you get management buy-in? Because management at the end of the day, to Amit's point, will say, Aare, I know this guy. He was my, we were played cricket together. How can you remove his company from the list, though he supplies only gauzes and does it once in 2 years?
Let Pallab answer and I have an answer for that also.
So it's a very good question, and here, okay, probably we need to be very diplomatic, and you are very correct that how the management will accept that. So there are a few tricks what we can adopt. First thing is we have to do a management buy-in. Now, how management will buy our views that, okay, whether we have to go for this sustainability or not. There are few tricks. Maybe the number one, just align your sustainability goal and the process with your company's own initiative or company's own goal. Like, suppose all the companies will have some kind of KRS, not that only in a particular any function, but the overall companies that will be reducing the carbon footprint or will be reducing the cost of that much. You can show to the management that by adopting the sustainable process in the procurement, we can reduce the cost by XXX percentage, whatever it is possible. This is one kind of alignment. Second is, you must see your audience. Whether your audience is, suppose in the boardroom, there can be CEO, there can be CFO, there can be general counsel, there can be your investors also. If it is for, say, CFO knows mostly about the money, whether it is giving us ROI or not. You can show that, yes, by adopting this sustainable practice, we can reduce the cost in a long term. Definitely, it will not be done in the initially, because initially you have to invest the cost, but in the long term, the cost will be coming down. Suppose the person is the general counsel. He will be mostly interested about whether we are going deviated from the country's particular law or any kind of law which is supposed to come, which is belonging to or which has the direct impact on the environment. You can show that by adopting this sustainability practice, we are thinking beyond. We are thinking 2, 3, 4 years beyond, so that it will help us in future. Suppose this sustainable practice has been coming from, say, EU to even East Asia, what I have mentioned. Even today's date, the investors are looking after where to invest, whether this company is thinking beyond, thinking futuristic, whether they are thinking about the sustainability, whether their management is accepting that. So if you can give this kind of thought that, okay, sustainable practices will help us in the future, investors will be eager to give the investment at your company. And try to put some small things in a bigger celebration. You have to show to the management that if we have this ethical practice, sustainable practice, we can attract the talent. Because nowadays, be it our current generation, they are knowing that how the sustainable practices are helping for the future. So the talent may be retained here. So this kind of few of the things which maybe initially it looks a little bit odd, but which is a long-term cases, long-term perspective. Probably these are the few things what we believe that management can buy in. These are the tactics.
Thank you, Pallab. That was excellent. Huh? I really like that part about put the ball in their court. You wanted me to do carbon footprint. Guess what? I have taken the lead. Now you can't beat me up for it. But Naresh, I think you're the only one here who has a very unique perspective because you are a CEO yourself. I'm assuming you'll have your own procurement leaders or your own direct reports. So did you buy his story? I mean, if he comes up to you and says all this, or he doesn't say it, he actually demonstrates it. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with it as the CEO?
So I feel like I know he has put the ball into our court, but very interestingly, if you have leaders like this who think on for their department, for their divisions, like for a pharmaceutical company, what is most important is we have manufacturing, which has to be absolutely sustainable. We have R&D, and then we have business function. These three functions, I believe, if they become themselves self-sustained, I think we can really solve the purpose for what all of us are sitting here together. Because if I start making single-use pills and I start packing it in single use, and of course it becomes difficult for any hospital and then for patients. So what we did in last, I will say that in 10, 15 years in pharma industry is, if you can see, we started creating bigger packs. We started creating larger packs for larger situations, at least for fast moving. We know that you have the right pharmacists for dispensing all this. We started creating, and we were like world's third largest generic company. And we were very successful doing this across the world, particularly in US. So we $4 or $5 billion we were doing in US at that time. We were very successful, implemented this in India. Initially there was a resistance because India was used to have smaller packs. But now I see for fast moving drugs, I think we played a very good role in that segment. As he rightly said, for COVID, you would have seen a big change. And I really compliment all the procurement people sitting here who helped us. Otherwise, there used to be, for example, 8-10 visits for an annual contract. Now you have just minimized it. You have made it very digital, and all that analysis and everything, we guys can come on digital and we are able to do it. So all these things, if we put together and all of us put strengths together, I think we can make it. It's not only one CEO who can make it. It is actually the group efforts, all of us can.
Excellent. So we have about 2 minutes, 23 seconds, which we always negotiated and got that. We bought 10 minutes, Always you deal with consultants or supply chain guys, you always get to negotiate. So that was a bad idea cutting our time in the first place. So any questions, but it should be specific to supply chain and what is discussed here. Okay, we have a question there. The gentleman with the mic. Thank you. There he is. Ask a tough one, huh? Okay. And not to me. You tell me the question, I'll tell you who to ask.
While you're speaking about procurement, there's been a lot of counterfeiting also. How do you handle this counterfeiting or spurious goods like?
Madan, Amit, Pallab, anyway.
So this goes back to my first answer to Dr. Vikram's question, right? So while nothing can be done 100%, at least in Asia, I wouldn't say India, but there are controls and tools that are getting in place. The idea is to restrict it to at least 80% to start with all the RFID, with the tracking tools, with IoT sensors and so on. But overall, on a major part, we try to consolidate the spend, buy only from the reputed manufacturers directly, right? Try to avoid buying from the local shops or local manufacturers who does not have certain certifications in terms of WHO or the local requirements in place. So these are all the measures what we can do today. It's a valid question, but it will take few more years for us to be 100% in terms of avoiding all the counterfeit drugs in place.
Any other questions? You have 19 seconds. Okay. Going once, twice, thrice. Okay. On that happy note, thank you all for your time today. I thought this was a brilliant session. I learned a lot. I thought I had got it pretty much covered, but then I heard some interesting things. I think procure to patient was one of my takeaways. How to sell it to the board was the second takeaway. Takeaway on human capital leveraging artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence, and obviously, laying down the role from the top. So with that, I'll hand it back to you.